I welcome you back to the second session. So for the second session, we have CA Archit Agarwal. He'll be taking the practical issues and reconciliation between GSTR 99C, 1, 2B and 3B, which of course is very very required these days. So I request our past convener, Jayesh Bhai, to give a introduction.
Okay, thank you, Vijayata Madam, our Deputy Convener, for giving me this opportunity. And we welcome you, our second speaker, CA Archit Agarwalji. He's coming up with a very important topic. He's on the reconciliation part. As we all know, that for the financial year 22-23, this is going to be the last opportunity, right? Considering that tagline in our mind, I would say this is going to be the very important topic. Even though first topic was important, but this is going to be the last opportunity to rectify the mistakes, or if we want to reconcile the transactions. So we request Archit Bhai to please cover up all the recent issues, right? Even though we are filing all the 996 since last 5 years, but then too we welcome you, sir, on a very important topic. So I request all the members to please welcome him with a round. And now to present the memento, I would like to invite Lina Madam and C. Ankush Bhai. Okay. So now regarding Archit Bhai, Archit being a qualified chartered accountant along with his LLB, is a partner in SS Gupta and Company. He's working in the indirect tax field since last 15 years. He's been appearing up till tribunal. He has co-opted or co-authored a book on a mutuality concept published by ICI. He has been regularly writing the various articles on the tax on the service tax and GST matters. He has been regular speakers on various seminars organized by the C Institute and the other various forums like Study Circle and GST departments and NASIN, etc. So with these formal introductions, now the dais is yours.
Thank you. A very good evening to all of you. Thank you, Jayesh Bhai, for a warm welcome. We'll discuss upon the practical reconciliation issues. Basically, what we are seeing day in, day out, I'm sure everyone of you must have noticed, system generated DRC1A, DRC01 is being issued, comparison between 99C, comparison between 1, 3B, 2B, 3B. So all these various kind of notices which are being received, and what could be the possible reason for the differences and what could be our reply. That is what majorly I'm going to cover, so that it will help us in drafting replies to these notices. That is the whole agenda of this topic. So first is excess outward tax in GSTR1 compared to GSTR 93B, right? This is how, so all the table which you are seeing, this is exactly what my client has received. So I have, all these are practical issues day in, day out, which we are seeing. I'm sure you must have also seen. The risk parameter 70, ye kya hai? Basically, Maharashtra state government, they have released a list of risk parameters. They call 70, 71, 72. वो बस इतना लिख के दे देंगे. उनका काम हो गया. Basically, this risk parameter they have mentioned. Now it is up to you to understand what is the difference, where it is coming from. Now you sit and explain. So this is exactly how a DRC1A notice or a DRC01 show cause notice will look like, in which they will give you that this is the difference between GSTR1 and GSTR9 liability or GSTR3B, what you have paid the tax. Right. Now, what could be the possible reasons for difference? Let us see that. There could be short liability in GSTR1 because there could be some credit note which is declared in GSTR1, but you have not declared it in GSTR3B due to insufficient liability. See, after 2-3 months of raising an invoice, suppose I issue a credit note, but in that particular month, there is no my outward liability is not that much, right? So I will be able to adjust that credit note only to the extent of liability available. So because of that, there will appear that there is short liability in GSTR1 because the credit note value will be declared in GSTR1, but in 3B you will not be able to reduce your tax liability to that extent. You will do it subsequently as and when the liability will come. So that could be one of the reasons. So basically, as I said in the beginning, we are discussing what could be the possible reasons because of this, which we can reply to these notices. Then short liability in GSTR 3B. As we discuss this scenario, as and when there will be 3B liability in that particular month, I'll keep on adjusting this liability of GSTR1. So once I adjust it in those months, it will look like that I have paid lesser tax as compared to what is appearing in my GSTR1. But that is actually not the scenario. This is because of the past credit notes which I'm adjusting right now. Invoice declared in GSTR1 but tax not paid. This is of course a simple and classic thing where someone has actually not paid the tax, then there will be a difference. And last is I have paid the tax, but I've paid it through DRC 03. Right? I have not paid it through 3B. So when department issues such notices, when they issue such show cause notices, they do not compare it with your DRC 03 payment. They'll simply see your GSTR1 liability or GSTR3B tax payment. If something is paid through DRC 03, that will never get reflected in those notices. So that is where we have to highlight that the client has already paid the tax through DRC 03, and that is where the difference will get reconciled. Next example is difference in value of credit notes as declared in GSTR1 vis-a-vis GSTR9. Now, GSTR1 during the year you have declared the credit notes. Okay, department compares that with what you have declared in GSTR9. Now, if you see the table, what they do is credit debit notes as per GSTR1 table 9B that they have compared with GSTR9 table 4M, and then they have computed the difference. Now, when we see table 4M of GSTR9, you see it covers credit notes, this table below. It covers credit notes issued in respect of transaction, debit note, supplies declared through amendments, reduced through amendments. So basically debit, credit notes, amendments, everything is taken together, and the subtotal which is appearing in 9M is the subtotal of all these above, which is being compared with GSTR1 table 9B. When we see that GSTR1 table 9B, it is purely debit credit notes. So the whole point is they are not covering any amendments in this when they are comparing. As I said, this is also exactly one show cause notice issued to one of my clients, and this was exactly the reason why there was a difference, because they did not take into account the amendments. When they are comparing with 9M, which is a subtotal covering credit debit notes as well as amendments, but when they are comparing it with GSTR1, they are covering only debit credit notes. They are not taking into account the amendments. So this we have to take care of. Yeah, this is also one very important one. Now they are comparing RCM liability, which is shown in GSTR 9 or GSTR 3B, and they compare it with the RCM liability as appearing in your 2A. Right now, as a supplier of service, suppose I am an advocate, I'm supplying my services, and I'm registered advocate. So I'll file my GSTR1 and I'll show my invoice with RCM liability, I'll tick it yes. So the recipient is liable to pay. Once I put the GSTN details and everything, I'll tick that. So it will get auto-populated in GSTR 2A of the recipient, right? So when it comes in GSTR 2A of the recipient, the department is comparing that 2A with the actual payment of what RCM I am paying, that they are comparing and they are issuing notices. Now, this is not so simple and straightforward. Why? Because there could be various reasons why I'm not liable to pay on that, or there could be a inadvertent error on the part of the supplier of service. First is inadvertently uploaded by supplier in company's GSTN. Now, there could be that my GSTN has been wrongly inserted by the supplier, or it could be that instead of my Maharashtra GSTN, he has issued the invoice on my Gujarat GSTN, or while uploading, he has done that mistake, but I have paid the tax in my other registration. So that is why the difference will appear. One example could be, according to the supplier, it is an RCM liability, but according to me, it was a forward charge liability. Now, I'll give you one classic case. Promotion, branding and promotion. There's always a thin line of difference, right? In case of branding and promotion, if it is a marketing services, normal promotion services, the tax is payable under forward charge. But if it is a sponsorship services, then tax is payable under reverse charge. Okay. Now, when you read the agreement very finely, you will come to know whether it is a sponsorship agreement or whether it is a branding agreement. And there could be some scenario where there will be a gray line where you'll be confused whether it's a sponsorship or it's a branding and promotion activity. So suppose as a recipient, I had interpreted that this is a branding and promotion and the supplier was liable to pay tax, and supplier has not charged, I have not bothered. Right? Supplier in his own wisdom has thought, no, this is sponsorship services and the recipient was liable to pay tax on it. And he has declared it in GSTR 1 as a recipient liable to pay. Now, this is basically an interpretation issue between me and the supplier. Now, I agree, either one has to pay the tax. It cannot be both, cannot escape the tax liability. But yes, if the supplier uploads the invoice by taking it as RCM liability, then as a recipient, the recipient will get the system generated notice where they'll compare it with the 3B and they'll say you have short paid the tax. Now, one scenario is supply of TDR by a landowner or a developer to a promoter. See, in case of real estate, the law says that as a supplier of TDR or FSI, when it is being used in a construction activity for construction of residential or a commercial building, then the liability is on the recipient, and the liability is to be paid at the end of the project to the extent of flats which remain unsold. Only to that extent I have to pay the tax, and they have given a calculation that unsold ka 5% you pay, or TDR value you pay 18% you pay by multiplying it unsold upon total area. That calculation, all that they have given. And simultaneously, what they have said is that in the hands of the supplier, it is an exempt supply. It is exempt in the hands of the supplier as long as it is being used by a promoter for developing a building. Right? Now, if a supplier who is a registered person, suppose he is a landowner, he has supplied TDR or FSI to me for building. He will raise an invoice. He will take, yes, RCM liability. I am liable to pay, no doubt in that. But when am I liable to pay? I'm liable to pay at the end of the project when OC is received. Now, department is comparing it in this particular month, and they are saying ki you should have paid the tax in this particular month. See, basically, because these are all system generated notices, no one is actually seeing when is the liability actually payable. Now, this is classic case which happened. In fact, I was advising one of the client who had uploaded, they had issued the TDR and they had uploaded it by taking RCM liability, and Kevin was advising one of the clients who was the recipient of TDR. And he called me, अरे यार तेरे client ने ये upload कर दिया टिक करके, मेरे इसको notice आ गया है, उसका registration cancel कर दिया recipient का. On this ground itself, without even verifying कि भाई ये क्या reason है, they cancelled the registration. Then they applied for revocation and all that. Then they went and explained, then it was revoked. So basically, this is what is happening. Department is not applying their mind ki there could be a scenario where liability has not yet arisen, right? Next example is, suppose the supplier has issued me an invoice and has uploaded again as RCM liability, but my time of supply has not arisen. Why it has not arisen? Because I have 60 days time to pay or making payment, whichever is earlier. If I have not paid him, then 60 days from the date of invoice. So once I receive the invoice in that particular month, I need not pay the RCM liability. I can pay it after 60 days. So of course, there will be a timing gap. That timing gap can also go across the financial year. If someone has raised an invoice in March and I have paid the liability in May. So legally, I have fully complied. But yes, once they compare it with the system, they will issue you a notice. So these are the possible scenarios for difference between RCM liability. Next is 2A versus 3B. I'm sure there is no such assessee existing in this world who has not received this notice, right? So I'm sure everyone is aware there are various scenarios why there could be a difference between 2A versus 3B, or now the static 2B versus 3B. I have listed down some of the reasons which we can discuss. There could be more reasons, of course, something which may come up in your mind. We can discuss that also. Excess ITC in 3B, I'm reading the first one. RCM supplies from unregistered vendors or import of services. So my RCM supplies, because of that, my 3B total will be higher. Although nowadays they are comparing it with only my forward charge liabilities, which is coming, not with the RCM liabilities. Then import of goods and import of services is there. Sometimes the data captured from IceGate is not flowing properly in my system. At that point of time, they'll find the difference. Return filed by the supplier after due date. If the return is filed after due date, ideally I'm not supposed to claim the credit because it will not appear in my 2B in that particular month. So if I have claimed it, my excess ITC will be visible in 3B. Tran credit directly claimed in 3B. This has happened, I'm sure, in the past. Now recently Supreme Court has again opened Tran 1, but which was there for a short period of time. But in the past, many who had failed to claim the transitional credit by filing Tran 1 had directly claimed it in 3B. So when the department compared 2A versus 3B, they found that in 3B you have claimed some excess credit. That was on account of this Tran difference. Supplies shown as B2C by the vendor, right? Many times it happens that vendor has by mistakenly shown it as B2C, or vendor has not taken my GSTN and has assumed, or he's a small vendor, he has simply filed it under the 4A column of B2C.
If the credit is taken for the earlier period, it is appearing in 2B. It is appearing in 2A, but it is appearing in the earlier months of 2A and 2B, and it is taken now. So then also it will be a.
Then also it will show it as, yes.
So then for that also we can defend. No, it is there.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is in earlier months, but it is appearing
Yes.
in 2B.
Absolutely. This is there. If you see the second point, availment of ITC invoices in compliance of section 16. One example is supplier reported invoice in March 22, but I have received the goods in April 22. He had sent the goods on 29th, 30th March. I received it in April. So as per section 16, one of the condition is I can claim the credit once I receive the goods. So I've received it in April. I have taken the credit in April. So in April months 2A versus 3B, they'll find that there is excess credit available. Whereas if they see March months 2A versus 3B, it will appear that 2B is my excess as compared to 3B. Then rule 37 or rule 42 reclaim, right? If I have not paid to the vendor within 180 days, then as per rule 37, I reverse the credit. That is fine. When I pay them, I reclaim the credit. So once I reclaim the credit, it will definitely not appear in my 2A. So they compare it, when they compare it 2A versus 3B, they'll find more credit. Rule 42, on account of exempt supply, I'm supposed to reverse proportionate credit every month. Then at the end of the year, I do the whole year's calculation. And if I have reversed monthly more credit, then I am entitled to reclaim the credit. So when I'm reclaiming the credit in that particular month's 3B, it will appear that I have claimed more credit than what is appearing in my 2A or 2B. Invoice where place of supply is shown as other territory to pay IGST on ocean freight. See, in case of ocean freight, section 12.8, it says, section 12 of IGST Act is basically when the supplier and recipient both are in India. Okay. And now I am exporting some goods to outside India. Okay. I am appointing some shipliner from India. He's taking my goods and delivering it, say, in US. So law says that in case of section 12.8, when in case of transportation of goods, the place of supply is destination of the goods, right? Now destination of the goods is outside India. So how do you write place of supply for that? So then they have released an advisory that you would select other territory. In case where the transactions are, where the place of supply is outside India, you select other territory and pay IGST on that. Now once other territory is selected, it will not automatically flow in my GSTR 2B. See, 2B, if you see, there is eligible credit. In ineligible, they show where the place of supply is different. So it will automatically take it over there in ineligible credit, because department thinks that once your place of supply is not your state, then you're not entitled to claim the credit, right? But see, this other territory is just for the purpose of paying the IGST liability. actually I've received the services and I'm entitled to this credit. So I'll claim it in my 3B. Even though other territory has been selected, there is no such law which restricts me from claiming this credit. Similarly, there could be a scenario where actually the invoice should have been raised on my place of supply of say Maharashtra or whatever. And while uploading the invoice, the vendor has done some mistake. So because of that also it may not come. But all such cases I am entitled to credit. Now once we come to this size, excess ITC in GSTR 2B. Now 2B is higher than my 3B, or of course 2B may not be higher than 3B. I have claimed some other credit. 2B में कुछ और credit आ रहा है. One is of course section 75 का. All that will flow in my 2B, but I have not claimed it in my 3B. Invoice wrongly uploaded, we have seen. Delay in uploading the invoices. ITC is availed by me in the month in which the invoice has been raised, but there is a delay from the vendor side that we already saw, that it can, in one particular month it will be excess in my 3B, in one particular month it will be excess in my 2B.
But ideally, one should claim as per 2B only.
Now though, after actually this amendment, one should claim after 2 only if it is appearing in that way. Only in specific scenarios, like I said, that vendor has done some mistake or something, you can argue, okay, if it is not appearing in my 2B, like he has shown B2C, still if it is not appearing in my 2B, I should be entitled to claim that credit. But all that will have to be tested. Yeah.
All letter notices.
Definitely. If only this is only, see, sometimes what happens now, there is a huge credit amount which is to be claimed, and against that I have huge liability also. If I don't claim it in this month, I'll pay out of cash. And then subsequently this credit will keep lying and I'll just keep it in my books. There is no use of that. So in such a peculiar situation, yes, one can take a stand. I am entitled to credit. If you are ready to fight, if the amount is substantial, then yes.
Now 1C notices are also started. No?
Yeah. On
For
email,
for this scenario.
on emails, they have started sending actually. So
And earlier, the vendor has shown wrong invoice and then they have reversed as a credit shown. When we have not taken credit.
I have covered that.
Yeah, you
scenario.
have covered that. So that is also a major issue.
Yes, I agree.
Because they have shown wrong GST and it is appearing in our name in the first month, we have not taken credit. Second, our credit shows is less because of that credit.
Correct. Correct.
We should eligible to take the credit. No? We should not be go as per with 2B.
Actually, what is happening now, there is over reliance on systems. They are believing that this is the only scenario we have covered everything and nothing can go beyond that.
Yes.
But when businessman is working, there could be thousands of different scenarios which I am sure lawmakers cannot imagine. Right? Day in, day out, we are seeing new business ideas, new ways. So they cannot imagine all the scenarios. So they should not have this system generated notices. They should send a simple letter. You seek explanation, but they don't have time for that because they also have to issue notices to thousands of assessees. They have this time limit. Service tax excise.
Central doesn't do.
Central doesn't do like this. State, actually VAT say a system they have borrowed. Now over there they had this mindset. If you see in a way, there is one positive thing is state wale aapko section 73 ka notice denge. They will impose 10% penalty. They want to follow this timeline of 30th September, 31st December for 18, 19 and all that. They consider that as sacrosanct. सेंटर वाले क्या है, बिंदास है, अभी नहीं हुआ कोई बात नहीं, सेपरेशन लगा के अगले साल शो कॉज दे देंगे. So they have under that mindset there is no hurry ki I have to issue show cause now only within the time limit.
Service tax
And they will issue you a notice under 74 with 100% penalty. So that is where the difference lies actually. That is why State Department is always in hurry कि अरे नहीं मेरा डेडलाइन आ रहा है अभी. Now they are in hurry कि 31st December के पहले I have to issue 18, 19 के notices. One scenario is supplier has uploaded invoice with IGST, whereas recipient has claimed it as C&S. Now there could be one error either from the supplier's end or from the recipient end. That could be one of the reasons. This is important. Date formatting mismatch can happen. Like 1/4/22, someone has taken it as 4/1/22. So in the system, while we apply VLOOKUP or when we compare it, you may find there is a mismatch in the system. Now, having said that, legally, these are the factual scenarios where the difference we can find out and we can reconcile and explain to the department. Now, what are the legal remedies available to us? One is that Rule 36(4), which asks me to actually see 2A has come from 9th October 2019 and not before that. So there was no such requirement for me to compare it with 2A and only then claim the credit. There is one press release of 2018 which says that 2A is only for declaration purpose. It is not for the recipient. It is not for denying credit to the recipient, right? One step further argument is rule 36(4) में पहले 20% आया extra from 2A, then 10%, then 5%, then 0%. ठीक है? Parallelly 0% के बाद parallelly 0% के बाद act में amendment आया, right? Section 16(2)AA they introduced and they said कि whatever is appearing in your 2B only, that much you can claim. Now tell me that amendment came on 1st Jan 22. ये एक्ट में ये लाने की क्या जरूरत थी जब रूल 36(4) वाज सफिशिएंट इनफ. आपने उसमें कर दिया था 0%, जितना 2B में आ रहा है आपको उतना ही मिलेगा. 20%, 10%, 5%, then they said 0%, 0%, basically जितना आ रहा है उतना ही मिलेगा आपको. What was the need for parallelly amending the act, right? Because they realized कि you cannot impose these conditions through rules, right? That is why they introduced that condition in act. So we can still argue that the condition has come only from 1st Jan 22 and there was no requirement for me to compare with 2A or 2B or whatever till 31st December 2021. This is very important because day in day out we are seeing these notices. Now the recent circular, recent is December 22 circular, which even Kevin was discussing. I just happened to listen that they have allowed you that above 5 lakhs you have to get CA certificate and all that. Now this is also a big U-turn from their previous circular. Now their previous circular said कि whatever is the difference, you get either the certificate from company or CA certificate. Now in this 2022 circular, what they said is that even if you get me a certificate, you will be allowed only up to 20%. See, the thought process in assessee's mind was that up from October 19, 20% तो मुझे eligible है ही है. उसमें तो मुझे कोई question ही नहीं है. Rule में भी कोई condition नहीं है कि you have to get some certificate or anything. ठीक है? More than 20 if I need, I should get certificate or something. Now circular says you are allowed. पहली बात तो you are not allowed to go beyond 20%, only up to 20%. And for 20% also you have to produce certificate, which is not there in rules, neither in act. So this is very, and their earlier circular also did not say this. So this is actually amending their old circular. And for past period, they are saying from October 19 when this condition came, for past period also, whatever credit you want to take, there has to be on the basis of CA certificate or this thing. Whereas for past period, rule 36(4) itself was not there. There was no condition only. So this was never the requirement. Then of course there are various judgments of High Court because everything till the time tribunal is not formed, everything goes to High Court directly. So Madras High Court DY Bethel is landmark judgment which came first. So High Court said that you are catching hold the recipient instead of going after the supplier, right? You know the supplier. You first come and tell me what action you have taken against the supplier, right? If you have taken any action against the supplier, they are absconding, they are not paying the tax, then you come and ask the tax from the recipient, and only when you find that they connived with each other to defraud the government. It is not a simpliciter that I'll just simply, because he is available to me, recipient, I'll issue a show cause notice and recover money from him. Suncraft Energy, Calcutta High Court, Dia Agencies, Galaxy Traders, Kerala High Court, all these judgments say that if the recipient is able to prove the genuineness of the transaction, if they are able to show you that payment has been made through banking channels, they can show the receipt of goods or services, they can show you the invoices, the ledgers. If all these sufficient things have been shown by the recipient, then
just I request a 2-minute break, please. Some urgent work is there.
sorry, I just need a minute. Yeah, just.
If you want.
Sorry. So all these judgments of high courts have time and again held that 2A is not a criteria to deny the credit to the recipient. You have to see the genuineness of the transaction and all other factors. Unfortunately, there is one Patna High Court Astha Enterprise judgment which is against the SSE. They have upheld that yes, if the amount is not appearing in 2A, that means the supplier has not paid the tax, and in such a scenario, credit cannot be allowed to the SSE. So there is one against judgment, but yes, all these issues will finally be settled by Supreme Court only someday, when, because all these judgments are being challenged, the favorable judgments are being challenged by the department also. Now, next type of notices are where credit note is appearing in 2A, however, ITC reversal has not been done. This is what you were saying, that some credit note has been uploaded by the supplier. Because of that, they are asking me that you have not reversed the credit on account of this credit note. Now, there could be different scenarios why I have not reversed it. One is that he has inadvertently uploaded my GSTN, right? So why should I reverse this credit? I am not liable to. Or at the time of issuing the original invoice itself, it was inadvertent, and therefore they have issued the credit note, which is again to rectify that error. I have not claimed credit only. So there is no need to reverse the credit. But department issues such notices. Now, third could be scenario that there is a 17.5 item, right? Block credit item on which I have not claimed the credit. It is my invoice only, but I have not claimed the credit. Now, credit note is issued against that item. Suppose catering bill is there, I have not claimed the credit, food and beverage ka. And now the caterer has reduced the bill because I have raised some complaint or something. So he has issued me a credit note. So department will come and ask you, अरे ये credit note है, आपने credit तो reverse किया ही नहीं है. अरे original तो देखो मैंने लिया ही नहीं है credit, right? So this happens very commonly, and there could be lastly one scenario where I have reversed the credit through DRC03 separately. Many a times SSEs feel that it is safer to reverse through DRC03. It is separately identifiable. Because of this activity, you can mention as a remark in DRC03 why I paid. But yes, of course, on production of such documents, department accepts it. It's not that they are rigid about it. Next is GSTR 9 mismatch. Now, many a times in GSTR 9 itself, they see that whatever liability you have declared and whether you have paid that liability or not, right? They are not comparing that GSTR 9 with your GSTR 1 or 3B or anything. They are internally comparing your GSTR 9 tables. See, what they will do is table 4N, they will compare, right? They will take that, then they will add table 10, reduce table 11. Now table 10 and 4N is basically all my output liabilities get covered in table 4N, up to table 4N. I keep on adding it. And then 10, 11 is something which I have paid next year or amendments made later or credit debit notes, whatever is there. So addition in table 10 and reduction in table 11. So after that, my net liability will come. Then they compare that with whatever tax I have paid, right? If you see GSTR 9 table 9, unfortunately, I have not reproduced actually that table. In that, they will compare, if you see the liability paid through cash and liability paid through credit, those are freezed columns. You cannot change that, right? That is coming from your 3B. So they'll compare that your liability, which you have declared in this GSTR 9 itself, suppose is 6 lakhs and what you have paid is 5 lakhs. Right. So 1 lakh difference, actually this difference will appear on the face of GSTR 9 itself. There is no, they don't have to go anywhere else to check this difference. Now, this difference can be there. There could be possible scenarios. One is clear, is that I have paid it through DRC03. Once that difference has come at the time of filing annual return, I have realized, and the SSE is paid through DRC03, right? Now, one reason could be amendment is made in table 1011. However, the differential tax I have paid in 3B of next year. This also happens quite often. At the time of filing of annual return, I am in November or December month, I have realized, oh, I have short paid for last year. So abhi jo main 3B file karne jaunga, usme I'll pay that tax. So that is why in GSTR 9, it will show that I have short paid the tax. And last reason is credit note I have declared in GSTR 1 in previous year. Okay, I had declared it in GSTR 1 of previous year. It was of last year only. And I could not adjust the liability in last year fully because my output liability was not that much. So it was reduced in my 3B of this year. When I have reduced it in 3B of this year, my tax payment of this year will appear less. Whereas my liability of this year is normal what is there, right? Because of that, in my GSTR 9 table 9, there will be a difference. But it is also a case where there is actually no short payment. Only the declaration is such that the form is made in such a manner that it will capture only details of current year and not of previous year.
So this is still continuing. In many cases.
Yeah, this will happen.
Mainly it is for problem during the cutoff period.
Sorry, you didn't get it.
So November for the previous year and stuff, there it is getting a big order. Your reversal is not yet done
Right.
for the credit card.
Right. In fact, in that also there is one issue. See, section 34 says that credit note you have to declare, right? There is no such condition that you have to reduce your liability also through that credit note within this time period of November of next financial year, 30th November. Because what happened in one of our clients' case, they issued a credit note, and when then they wanted to reduce their liability, there was no sufficient liability. They carried it forward for next 4, 5 months, 6 months. And then the 30th September deadline got crossed. So they asked me, 30th September tak mera ye adjust nahi hua hai. There is no such condition. But department is reading that you have to declare it in GSTR 1 and adjust your liability also till 30th September. That condition is not there. Only declaration in GSTR 1 is required. Next is all these are headings actually risk parameter 83. If you see, all these are coming from that state VAT list in which they are comparing. Excess RCM ITC in GSTR 9, 6 CDF, then liability shown in GSTR 9 4G. So basically in GSTR 9 table 4G, we show our RCM liability, right? And against that liability, we claim the credit. And 6 CDF, table 6 is for claiming the credit and 4G is for paying the liability. So they compare that 4G mein aapka tax dikh raha hai say 10,000 rupees and CDF mein credit what you have taken is 15,000 rupees, right? So how can it be more than the tax what you have paid? So one simple reason could be last year I had paid the tax under RCM and claimed the credit in this year. So if you see the last year's 4G versus 6 CDF, you should find that equivalent difference that you have claimed lesser credit. And in this year's GSTR 9, you will find that difference has been reconciled. Yeah, then there is another risk parameter 81 in which they compare excess ITC of IGST on import of goods shown in GSTR 9 6E versus IceGate data. Right, on import of goods, I pay BCD and IGST and that I claim the credit. Now, this data actually goes from IceGate to the GSTN data. So now, though, more or less it has been resolved. But in beginning, when it had started, there was a lot of problem. The data was not flowing properly. It was not getting captured. So this was a very common notice which was received by many SSEs who are paying IGST on import of goods, that they were being issued notices that you have actually not paid this much IGST, but you have claimed the credit. Then you prove it by showing the bill of entry and all those things. On that basis, those demands were getting dropped. I'll explain this again. One very complicated table presented by the department. This is exactly also I've captured from one show cause notice. See what they are doing is, if you see, let us first see table 8. Yeah. This is table 8 of GSTR 9, right? 8A gives the details of ITC as per 2A. Then 8B gives ITC of 6B and 6H, what you have claimed above. And 8C is what you have claimed in next financial year. All this is not relevant for the present discussion. First is as per 2A, whatever is coming will come in 8A. It is auto-populated from your 2A, right? So what department does is, first is they'll take ITC as per table 8A of GSTR 9. Okay, so this is actually what is appearing in your 2A. Then ITC from ISG, if any, for table 4A4 of your 3B. Then ITC of imports, table 4A1 plus 4A2. Then inward supplies liable to RCM 4A3. Then ITC brought forward from previous financial year to current financial year, that is table 8C of GSTR 9. ये आपने अगर कुछ 8C में दिखाया है, लास्ट ईयर के 8C में जो आपने दिखाया, जो इस ईयर आप क्लेम कर रहे हैं, all these things they are adding. Okay, fairly they are adding, they are saying कि okay, आपका इस साल का 2A में 8A में जो आ रहा है, प्लस आपका ISG से जो आ रहा है, प्लस आपका इंपोर्ट्स पे जो आपने भरा है, RCM जो आपने भरा है, और लास्ट ईयर के 8C में से जो आपको करंट ईयर में मिला है वो आपने भरा है, माइनस any reversals in table 4B of 3B, minus whatever you have done reversal, minus what you have shown in 8C of current year, right? आपने 8C of current year में दिखाया है, which will be carried forward to next year. After subtracting all that, they are comparing that this much is your ITC which is available for utilization. Okay, आपके 2A में आया, आपके ISG से आया, आपके RCM से आया, आपके लास्ट ईयर का कैरी फॉरवर्ड इस साल में आया, माइनस इस साल का जो आपने नेक्स्ट ईयर कैरी फॉरवर्ड किया है, और माइनस जो आपने रिवर्सल किया है, तो जो नेट बचा इतना ही आप यूटिलाइज कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, अब वो यूटिलाइजेशन को कंपेयर कर रहे हैं एक्चुअल यूटिलाइजेशन से. तो 1 crore 60 lakhs, if you see row 8, 1 crore 60 lakhs is your net ITC available for the current year for utilization, and in this year you have paid tax by utilizing credit of 1 crore 65 lakhs. So they are saying that you have net excess utilized 5 lakh credit, right? Now firstly, whatever I am utilizing is coming through my electronic credit ledger only. उसके beyond तो मैं जा नहीं सकता हूँ utilize करने के लिए, मैं अपने आप से तो figure कुछ punch करके कर नहीं सकता हूँ. तो ये concept कि I have excess utilized is flaw concept, ठीक है? And then the whole basis of starting this is from table 8A. 8A is basically what? 2A. Now 2A, I'm sure abhi 2B आने के बाद people have started following that diligently, but earlier no one was following 2A. Whatever credit was there as per my books, I am claiming that credit. So in nutshell, what is happening? अब ये जिस एसएससी को मेरे शोकॉज आया, उसको 2A वर्सेस 3B का नोटिस है, और फिर एक्सेस यूटिलाइजेशन का अलग नोटिस है. तो दिस इज लाइक डुप्लीकेट डिमांड. आपने 2A 3B का एक बार मुझे नोटिस दे दिया जब आपने बोला है कि भाई मेरा 2A से ज्यादा मैंने क्रेडिट अवेल कर लिया. अगेन यू आर टेकिंग दैट डेटा एंड यू आर सेइंग अरे आपने तो यूटिलाइज भी ज्यादा कर लिया क्रेडिट, राइट? सो अवेलमेंट के वक्त आपने मुझसे डिमांड कर लिया, और यूटिलाइजेशन के वक्त आपने वापस से मुझसे डिमांड कर लिया. So basically such notice should get set aside on this ground itself. This is duplicate demand, and then you separately keep on fighting legally कि मेरा 2A जो है that is not sacrosanct, I can claim my credit and all that, but that is separate. Firstly this is a duplicate demand, क्योंकि आप अवेलमेंट पे अलग से मुझसे मांग रहे हो, यूटिलाइजेशन पे अलग से मुझसे मांग रहे हो. Also, if you see what they are reducing over here is reversal in table 4B of 3B, that they are reducing. ये table 4B है. 4B में whatever I am showing over here reversal, उसके अलावा अगर मैंने कुछ DRC 03 से किया होगा, तो that will not come over here. So that should also be taken into account when they are comparing. If I have reversed certain credit through my DRC 03, that is not getting captured over here. Now, again, this is a common notice which is being issued. So what they are doing is they are identifying from your 2A what HSNs are appearing, right? HSN 9954 आया तो they know that this is a works contract services. 9966 आया तो they know this is car hire related services. 9964 airlines travel services. So what they are seeing is कि ये सबका total ले लिया, total ineligible ITC as per your 2A, and then they are seeing कि what you have declared in table 7E of GSTR 9 या 4D1 of GSTR 3B, आपने तो उसमें कुछ reversal दिखाया नहीं है, and therefore they are demanding the reversal of credit. Now there are two things to this. One is 90% of the SSCs will show only the credit which they are availing, right? I'll never show what credit I am not availing. I'll not show. ये तो अभी August 2022 में इनका circular आया, जिसमें इन्होंने बोला कि whatever is appearing in your 2B, you first show it as claim, and then you show it as reversal. In 4B1, 4B2, जो 4B1 में जो आपका permanent reversal है, that will come in 4B2. Whatever you are going to reclaim in future, you show it in 4B2, right? All this has come from August 2022. उसके पहले no one was following this practice कि I'll show all my credits, then I'll show reversal of credits. So this itself is, मतलब this data is not comparable. Just because मेरे 2A में आ रहा है data ineligible credit का, that does not automatically mean that I have claimed that credit and I have not reversed it, that what they are comparing.
Plus, if output net is 9954, which is excess, then inward 9954.
Yes, I was coming to next point. And in both the first two items, see, contractor may, if I'm using it for construction activity, I'm entitled to credit. Renting or hiring of motor vehicle may, if I'm in same line of business, again I'm entitled to credit. So that scenario should be taken into account when they are issuing such notice. Last is airlines travel. ये credit कब deny हुआ? I mean 17.5 nowhere covers airline का travel credit. That is allowed, right? So department has that misconception कि this is all personal consumption. When company is paying it, it is a deductible expense under income tax as well. Where is the question of it being a personal consumption?
Those contract, if it is to repair, means it is not capitalized, then we can take.
Right. When it is not capitalized, it is expensed out, then also it is eligible. That also they are not considering. They are simply issuing it on the basis of this HSN. So see, that is what. So department's mindset is you issue the notice, then let the SSC come and explain it to you. Now this does not work. Unnecessarily, there are lakhs of notices being issued. Right? Department is feeling happy. We have this much liability to be recovered, this much lakh crores of liability, but ultimately, how much of that succeeds? Right? Only 2-3% of that succeeds. So there is no point of just simply issuing the notices.
So the taxpayer is not reporting invoice-wise HSN anywhere. When I am filing my R1, I just report my consolidated HSN.
हाँ, so आप वो नीचे वो आता है ना HSN summary.
हाँ, मैं वो फाइल करता हूँ.
हाँ,
वो मेरे पास तो मल्टीपल है.
हाँ, अगर आपके पास मल्टीपल है तो उससे नहीं मालूम पड़ेगा उनको. अगर आपका वही है, सिंगल है.
ये तो डायरेक्ट.
हाँ, मतलब दिस इज वेरी बोगस नोटिस. जिसका सिंगल है, आपसे वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्टर हो, आपका सारा का सारा उसमें आ रहा है. I hope they are taking from that only such cases. I don't know if multiple वाले. हाँ. There is a possibility.
Invoice-wise, so we are not filing HSN.
You are right. See, something similar to that, I'll give you an example. अभी जो नया ये लोग notices लाए हैं, in which they are saying कि if the SSC has filed.
One point I would like to add is
Yeah.
basically while applying for the GST, you are supposed to select the nature of your business.
Top 5.
Top 5. Maybe whatever kind of your business, and that time you are supposed to select the service accounting code and the HSS code. There might be chances that they might be selecting this kind of cases from there also. I'm not aware.
Right. So next scenario is I was giving an example. They have now what they have done is कि GSTR 1 में सामने वाले ने दिखाया आपके 2B में आ रहा है, you take the credit, no hitch. Then what they are saying is at the end of the year you see if the SSC has not filed 3B for any particular month, or if they have not paid the tax for that particular month, then they ask you to reverse the credit, right? And now what we are seeing is their idea is very clear, like TDS, whatever tax has been paid, only that much credit can be allowed to you, nothing more than that. Now, tell me one thing. Suppose a vendor has raised an invoice, has 10 invoices during a particular month of 100 rupees each, GST amount 100 rupees each, 1000 rupees है. अब उसने 3B उसमें से पे किया 400 रुपीज का आउट ऑफ 1000. ठीक है. अब डिपार्टमेंट क्या करेगा, वो 10 के 10 को क्रेडिट डिनाई कर देगा ये बोल के कि ये हैज नॉट पेड है, जबकि 400 तो उसने पे किया है. अब वो 404 किसका पे किया है, कौन से 4 इनवॉइस का. राइट. सो ये वैसा केस है. अगर उसका एक भी वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का बिल हुआ तो सबको नोटिस इशू. तो व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज कि उसका अगर मल्टीपल हुआ HSN, तो देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी डिपार्टमेंट उसमें से देखेगा कौन सा ब्लॉक्ड वाला HSN है, वो पकड़ के सबको नोटिस दे देगा. Right. Then the next is risk parameter 74. This is, I heard Kevin was also discussing that, key retrospective cancellation of registration of the vendors. This is happening now very frequently. See, basically in the eyes of department, everyone is a thief. So once they go to a vendor and they find one smallest reason that there is something fishy, they'll immediately cancel the registration retrospectively, right? And then once they cancel that registration retrospectively, next step is to see, अरे पिछले 4 साल में किस किस को इनवॉइस रेज किया है, सबको नोटिस दे दो, इसका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हो गया, now you reverse the credit, right? So Calcutta High Court in 2 cases, LGW and 1 case of Sanchita Kandu, all 3 Calcutta High Court decisions are there, in which they have said that you see whether your transaction is before the cancellation. See, they will do retrospective cancellation from 1st July 17. But if your transaction was done before they had actually cancelled the registration, then it is first leg you have cleared. And secondly, you showed that your transaction was genuine and there is a bona fide purchase is made by you. Once you prove that, you are entitled to credit, irrespective of the fact that department has retrospectively cancelled. Now, for you to identify उसका कौन सी डेट से कैंसिल हुआ था, इट्स नॉट इजी, राइट? अगर उसके GSTR 1 में उसने आपका इनवॉइस डिक्लेयर कर दिया था, आपके 2A में आ रहा है, तो दैट इज वन ऑफ द वे टू प्रूव कि उसने 1 फाइल किया था उस मंथ का, दैट मींस उसका रजिस्ट्रेशन उस वक्त एक्टिव था, राइट? अगर उसने 1 भी फाइल नहीं किया, then it becomes difficult for you to prove. Then you'll have to actually go to the vendor, you will have to see communication, you will have to ask him to send screenshots of his portal by which you can prove कि इसका इस डेट से कैंसिल हुआ रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली और मेरा ट्रांजैक्शन उस डेट के पहले का है. सो देन इट बिकम्स अ चैलेंज, बिकॉज इफ द वेंडर, अगर कोई फिशी वेंडर है तो वैसे ही वो ये सब आपको देगा नहीं डेटा, ही मस्ट बी एब्सकॉन्डिंग और समथिंग. सो इन सच केसेस देयर विल बी अ डिफिकल्टी. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, most of the cases you will find that transaction, आपका transaction अगर genuine है और retrospectively cancel किया है, तो on the basis of these judgments you can take the benefit. Next is risk parameter 79. इसमें what they compare is that you have purchased, you have claimed the ITC with respect to a supplier who has uploaded the details in its GSTR1 after the deadline of 30th September या 30th November, जो भी है, ठीक है? Now thing is, section 16.4, I'll just read that and then we'll discuss. A registered person shall not be entitled to take input tax credit in respect of any invoice or debit note for supply of goods or services or both after 30th day of November following the end of the financial year to which such invoice or debit note pertains, or furnishing the relevant annual return, whichever is early. So 16.4 restricts me from taking credit after 30th November of next financial year. Where is the condition that supplier should also file his return before 30th November, only then I will be entitled to credit. मैंने मेरा credit time पे ले लिया, अभी 2B आ गया, उसको एक बार let us keep that aside, because this they are issuing notices even for 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20 and all that period. And I'll come to current period also. Now I have got one invoice, I have got the goods or services, I have taken the credit. Supplier has also shown it now. He has shown it late. Okay, after 30th September, he has shown that invoice in its GSTR1. So मेरी तो सारी conditions fulfill हो गई. I have taken it within time. He has paid the tax also. He has shown it. Department is saying no. उसने 30th September के बाद अगर रिटर्न में दिखाया तो आपको क्रेडिट डिसअलाउ हो जाएगा. There is no such condition. When we come to current year scenario where 2B is there, law says you cannot take the credit unless it is appearing in your 2B. Fine. Most of the SSEs, what they are doing, or we have also been advising is कि आज आप अभी नवंबर 30th नवंबर में आ गए, इनफैक्ट 2 ही दिन बचे हैं, लास्ट मिनट बचा है, तो आपके हिसाब से जितना भी क्रेडिट आपके बुक्स में बनता है जो अभी तक नहीं आया 2B में, you show it as claimed and you show it as reversed in the same month, and then as and when the vendor will upload that invoice in its return, you reclaim it. For reclaiming there is no time limit, right? So I am showing it as availed, I am showing it as reversal in the same month, and then whenever the invoice will be uploaded. But what will happen, that invoice will be uploaded after 30th November. अभी तक नहीं हुआ तो मतलब बाद में ही होगा. Department on the basis of this, they are understanding कि उसने late अगर दिखाया तो आपको credit मिलेगा ही नहीं. They are going to deny, but that is definitely contestable. This does not sustain. 16(4) में condition है मेरे ऊपर है to claim the credit within time limit. There is no such condition that vendor should also upload the invoice within this time limit, only then the credit is due.
इशू 9 में जो प्रीफिल होता है फिगर उसके पे है क्योंकि वो कट ऑफ डेट पे प्रीफिल हो जाता है.
Right.
उस ये
वहां से
पैरामीटर वहां से आ रहा है.
Correct.
In 2B also it shows the ineligibility.
In 2B also you are right. It is showing as ineligible activities. So because see that is what I'm saying कि ये क्या हो रहा है ना, ये system में they have got this and assuming that all these scenarios are the only scenarios which can happen and they have this understanding. But where there is an interpretation issue, अब ये interpretation issue है, department का interpretation है on the basis of 16(4) that vendor also has to show the invoice in this. Assessee का interpretation है कि no, only for claiming the credit this is the time limit. In such a scenario, how can department impose that condition through system? Like you have highlighted कि भाई 2B में वो ineligible में दिखा रहे हैं. How can they do that? Unless and until it is settled कि yes, this is a settled principle either in law or by some judgments. Till that time, they are using system as a tool to deny you the credit, to issue you the notice. That is where the whole problem lies.
But in the subsequent GSTR, once you can show the previous period invoices. No? You have filed GSTR 1 for earlier period is fine. With you not
It's fine.
filed, then
I
you
can show the
file.
invoice. Na? I can show the invoice in amendment table. Any old invoice I can show.
The amendment will appear on the portal only if the earlier invoice is there.
No. First time also, if I'm declaring any invoice for the past month, April का invoice मेरा भूल गया मैं दिखाना. May month में I can show that invoice.
That you are saying the same year. Suppose now about 22-23. If I'm not wrong, I'm not sure, but I think you cannot show GSTR 1 सारे file कर दिए.
April to March की मेरी हो गई 22-23 की. March का invoice मैं April 23 में दिखा पाऊंगा.
दिखा सकते हैं. But I'm saying कि after October 23, मतलब अपना 30th November चला गया, and by 6
भी आप दिखा
अपना कोई invoice बाकी है दिखाने का, we cannot add in the subsequent GSTR.
No, there is no restriction. There is no, you definitely be able
Till
to.
March लेता है शायद. Till
March.
March 1 year.
मतलब March 24 के बाद April 24 में वो invoice नहीं लेगा 22 का.
I don't
I
think
think
so.
total they are not allowed.
नहीं, I don't think so.
22-23 का invoice till March 24 के returns में लेगा. और 22-23 का invoice अगर पहले के returns बाकी है तो वो तो लेगा.
वो तो ठीक है. That तो she is agreeing. She is saying कि after certain
हाँ.
deadline वो पुराना invoice नहीं लेगा.
एक साल लेता है.
You can
I have not come across. I think लेगा.
You are thinking March 24 के बाद नहीं ले सकते. I am saying it from
December
December.
23
So it's a question of 3-4 months only. But then according to
नहीं, I think वो लेगा.
by the board.
GSTR 1 में
नहीं है मेरे हिसाब से नहीं है. पोर्टल में नहीं रहते.
हाँ, correct. Debit note and invoice it will take. There is no restriction as far as I have seen. Debit note also it will take. Credit note it will not take after that due date of cut off due date.
कोई पैसा देने आ रहा है.
I think amendments of
हाँ, exactly.
Incoming is allowed.
Incoming is allowed. Exactly. That is the whole idea.
what you are saying is that after March 24 it won't be allowed. So that is saying it is a practical difficulty on the portal.
Yes.
See, by law it may allow, but on the portal I think in GSTR 1 they are not allowed.
Even suppose, let us assume that March 24 is the correct. Then also for the last 4-5 months, they are restricting me from taking the credit even if the supplier has shown that invoice.
Yes. दोनों पास से tax
Credit they are
Maybe notice no,
this is showing our own invoice as an outward supply.
Correct. This is one very important legal issue, risk parameter 78. That ITC is availed by the recipient in delayed return which is filed after the time limit of 16.4. Now we all understand that time limit of 16.4 has to be followed, no doubt in that, right? But मेरा March 23 की return है, which I am filing on say 1st December 23. ठीक है? So in such cases, whether I can claim the credit or not. Now what department is doing is कि अगर आपकी Feb, March, Jan ये सब returns अगर बाकी है और अगर आपने 30th November के बाद आप उसको फाइल करोगे अब तो उसमें आपको 0 क्रेडिट अलाउ करेगा।
16.4
वो 16.4 के बेसिस पे आपको 0 क्रेडिट अलाउ करेगा। अब इसमें क्या है, see there are 2-3 arguments which are there. One is that 16.4 says a registered person shall not be entitled to take input tax credit. Now taking ITC is different from reflecting ITC in returns. What you have to see is कि ये मार्च की मेरी जो रिटर्न है, if I am filing it say after 30th November, okay, I have taken the credit in March month. ये see return is what? A reflection of what tax you have paid, what credit you have claimed, how much you have paid through cash, how much it reflects for that particular month only, right? So you have to see actually if the credit I have claimed it in March return, then whenever I file it, I am still entitled to claim that credit. After November, if the return is pertaining to a period after November, then that restriction of 16.4 should ideally apply. Important observation I have reproduced from Bharti Airtel का Supreme Court का judgment है. Bharti Airtel में क्या हुआ था? I'll explain you. Delhi High Court, the SSC Bharti Airtel ने क्या किया? Starting में 17-18 में, don't look at the screen, एक बार ignore करो. What they did was some 900 odd crore rupees they paid through cash, and then they said कि मेरे पास इतना credit balance है, मुझे उसका refund चाहिए, cash refund. ठीक है? Their argument was it was around 950 crores rupees. Their argument was कि आपका matching system जो आपने बोला था वो आया नहीं 17-18 में, जब आपने बोला था कि matching system आएगा, तो I was not sure कि ये जो भी credit मैं claim कर रहा हूँ ये सामने वाला दिखाएगा, match होगा कि नहीं होगा. तो out of abundant precaution मैंने सब कुछ कैश में भर दिया और मैंने क्रेडिट से यूटिलाइज नहीं किया क्योंकि मुझे रिस्क लग रहा था. तो इसलिए अब मुझे ये क्रेडिट को आप मुझे कैश रिफंड दे दो. ठीक है? दिल्ली हाईकोर्ट ने अलाउ कर दिया कि यू आर अलाउड टू क्लेम कैश रिफंड बिकॉज इट इज गवर्नमेंट्स मिस्टेक ऑफ नॉट गेटिंग द मैचिंग सिस्टम एंड ऑल दैट. डिपार्टमेंट वेंट टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने वो जजमेंट रिवर्स कर दिया. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला मैचिंग सिस्टम एंड ऑल दैट इज सेकेंडरी. Your books is the basic document on the basis of which you are entitled to claim the credit. If you have received the goods or services, you have the valid invoice, you have made the valid payment, and you have recorded the transaction in your books, then you are entitled to claim the credit. You should have not waited for the matching system. So in that they have said that I'll just read this. It has been observed that registered person is statutorily required to maintain books of accounts, which are the primary documents and source material on the basis of which self-assessment is done by the registered person, including his eligibility and entitlement to get the credit. So 2A is only a facilitator. That is what they said. So once March की return अगर मैं नवंबर के बाद भी फाइल करता हूं, मेरे बुक्स में तो मैंने मार्च में क्लेम कर लिया 22-23 में वो क्रेडिट, right? So the question is whether claiming that credit, does it mean reflecting in the return which should also be filed before 30th November? As of now, this is a very highly litigative matter. There are two judgments which are against, Patna High Court and Andhra Pradesh High Court. Actually, उसमें ये सब argument नहीं था. उसमें simpliciter argument था कि 16.4 की जो condition है of taking the credit within so and so time limit is unconstitutional. They said कि you cannot impose a time limit and all that. So High Court held कि no, legislature has the power to impose the condition of time limit. It cannot be held as unconstitutional. They have the power to grant you. They said कि credit is a vested right. I should be allowed to claim at any point of time. So High Court held that no, government has the power to restrict your eligibility of claiming credit up to a certain time limit. The issue is, I am saying we should not challenge 16.4 का time limit. We should say कि once a return which I have filed for the previous month of a particular month, which is prior to November की return, then I am entitled to claim the credit because I have already claimed it. I'm not violating 16.4 ka condition anywhere. I've claimed it in my books. That is one way. Second is I'm reflecting what I've done in the month of March 23. Right? Only the return is filed late, and you are accepting that return along with delayed late fee, penalty, interest, whatever is there. So you have accepted my that particular month's return. So of course, this is highly litigative. This will be challenged further also. Now, what department does is next standard kind of notices is आपने जो exempt supplies दिखाई है 3B में, right? On that basis, they will say कि your exempt supply divide by your total supply, and this much is the ITC to be reversed, and they'll compare it with what ITC you have reversed, right? Now, this is not so simple and straight jacket formula कि जितना आपका exempt supply दिख रहा है in your 3B, divide the total supply and all that. One is exempt supply will include interest income, right? Interest is an exempt supply, but rule 42 clearly says that for the purpose of reversal, you don't have to consider exempt income, right? So reversal उसके लिए required नहीं है, तो मेरा यहाँ पे तो दिखेगा. On that basis, department is asking me, ठीक है? Secondly, what they are doing is मेरा जितना मैंने credit लिया है उस पे ये percentage apply कर देते हैं exempt upon total का. अब out of that credit, you have to see only which is common credit for my exempt activity and taxable activity. I am doing two lines of business. One is fully taxable, one is common. And if I have taken certain credit which is directly attributable to my taxable business, then I am entitled to full credit. So आप डिपार्टमेंट क्या कर रहा है, जितना क्रेडिट आपने 3B में क्लेम किया उस पे पूरे पे ये फॉर्मूला अप्लाई कर रहा है, राइट? So in that you have to see how much is my actually common credit which is common for both the businesses. Only then reversal will come.
When we claim, if we claim only the proportionate, then the question of reversal.
That is another scenario. See, they are comparing it what you have shown as reversal in 3B. Many a time people will, yeah.
Only the proportionate credit.
You are right. That also is not getting covered over here because they are assuming ki you should follow the system of claiming 100 rupees and showing proportionate reversal of 20. But people are showing credit claimed only 80 rupees. Now on mismatch, as we all know, there are various notices now. DRC01 तो अपना normal show cause notice है. Then they have introduced DRC 1A is also there, already there since a long time, which is an intimation before show cause notice. Now new ones are DRC 01B. If your GSTR 1 shows a higher liability than what you have paid in GSTR 3B, then DRC 01B part A में notice आएगा और उसका reply part B में देना है within 7 days. This is very important because see portal पे ये notice आ जाएगा 7 days में, हाँ 7 days में अगर reply नहीं किया तो आपको DRC 01D में सीधा recovery under section 79 का power है, ठीक है? Even if you see section 75(12), it says that GSTR 1 की liability is higher than what you have paid in 3B, then they can simply go for recovery. They don't have to issue any show cause notice or anything under 73 or 74. Of course, they should apply their mind that there could be hundreds of reasons why my GSTR 1 liability is higher than my 3B. It is not so simple, but they have made this mandatory. Similarly, 3B में जो credit avail किया, if it is more than 2B, again notice will come in DRC 01C part A, and you will have 7 days time limit to file the reply. Now, one of my client, they are having 3-4 entities. Each entity is having around 20 to 25 registrations. So they have 80 to 100 registrations. उसमें सब में उसका खुद का मोबाइल नंबर और ईमेल आईडी है. तो बोलते हैं एवरी डे मुझे कोई ना कोई आता है SMS, सम नोटिस हैज बीन अपलोडेड. मैं चेक करता रहता हूँ भाई कौन सा नोटिस आया. और नाउ इज अफ्रेड कि ये 1C 1D के नोटिसेस 7 days में अगर रिप्लाई नहीं किया तो there will be a huge problem because then the system will automatically will go for recovery.
Whether these notices are also coming on email or only on the
On email also.
on email also.
See, अभी इसमें दो चीजें. एक है मेनी टाइम्स ईमेल नहीं आता है, या तो जंक में चला गया, स्पैम में चला गया, ईमेल नहीं आया। सेकेंडली सी क्या है, आपने हिस्टोरिकली रजिस्ट्रेशन के वक्त किसका ईमेल आईडी दिया है, वो एम्प्लॉय अभी कहाँ है। अभी एक क्लाइंट के केस में ऐसे ही हुआ, उसको ऑर्डर आ गया, किसी को पता नहीं, क्योंकि ईमेल आईडी वो किसी और का था, एसएमएस भी उसी के नंबर पे गया जो क्लाइंट छोड़ के जा चुका है 2 साल पहले। ठीक है, उसके बाद पता चला 3 महीने की टाइम लिमिट पास हो गई है, नथिंग कैन बी डन। लकीली अभी वो एमनेस्टी स्कीम आ गई फॉर फाइलिंग अपील, अदरवाइज देयर वाज अ 50 lakhs डिमांड ऑन दैट, 50 lakhs टैक्स, 50 lakhs पेनल्टी एंड इंटरेस्ट ऑन दैट। तो
Recognition addresses are very, very important.
या सो इनफैक्ट हमने एक एडवाइजरी हमारे सब क्लाइंट्स को मेल की थी कि प्लीज चेक एक एक जीएसटीएन में जाके आपका किसका ईमेल आईडी और मोबाइल नंबर अपलोडेड है, और अगर वो ओल्ड पर्सन किसी का है जो अब नहीं है कंपनी में, तो यू प्लीज गेट इट करेक्टेड, या एक कोई सेंट्रल ईमेल आईडी रखो जिसपे एवरीडे इवनिंग में कोई नोटिस चेक कर रहा है, राइट?
B2B कंपैरिजन मंथली बेसिस पे होगा या
मंथली बेसिस पे।
मतलब लास्ट महीने में मैंने कम लिया था, किसी इनवॉइस का क्रेडिट नहीं लिया था और वो मैंने नेक्स्ट महीने में लिया, तो मुझे नोटिस आएगा।
नोटिस आ जाएगा।
See, but I
ऐसा तो
think
हर
the
महीने में
cumulative
चलेगा।
table is also appearing.
यही करते रहते
सी
There will be cumulative table, na? They are maintaining cumulative table also.
नहीं, what in this they are going to compare, that is separately being maintained. In this you will get the notice. See, they have given this reason. If you see DRC 1C notice का difference, input tax rate not availed in earlier tax period due to non-receipt of inward supplies of goods or services in the tax period, या input tax rate not availed in earlier tax period inadvertently or due to mistake or omission. So basically they have given all these scenarios. अब आप decide करो इसमें से कौन सा है। नोटिस आपको हर महीने आता रहेगा। प्रॉब्लम क्या
Will
है?
you reply in this scenario under this?
Yeah, these are the various options which they have given, and lastly they have any other reasons which you can manually feed what is the reason.
हम जवाब तो दे, ड्रॉप करेगा।
That is secondary, of course, that is also a challenge.
जो ही चल।
My concern,
Those
Sorry.
options which you,
hmm,
we have to choose one of those options, right?
right, and you have to give the details कि out of this rupees 1 lakh is because of credit not availed in previous period, out of this 50,000 is because of this reason. Totality reason wise you have to give basically. See सिस्टम पे DRC 01B 01C का पार्ट ए आ जाएगा, पार्ट बी में आपको रिप्लाई करने का जो ऑप्शन होगा, अगर रीजन फाइंड आउट नहीं भी हो रहा है, सी एवरी मंथ विद इन 7 days फाइंड आउट नहीं भी हो रहा है, एक बार एनी अदर रीजन सिलेक्ट करके उसमें चाहे डॉट डाल के भी आप अपलोड कर दो। नहीं तो आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हो जाएगा, इसलिए आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हो तो वेल एंड गुड, ठीक है। अब मान लो दिवाली की लंबी छुट्टी आ गई, किसी ने नोटिस देखा नहीं, लास्ट डे पे मालूम पड़ा, बीच में लॉन्ग वीकेंड आ गया, कुछ भी आ गया, जब भी मालूम पड़े अगर रीजन आइडेंटिफाई हो सकता है, यू कैन फील वेरी गुड, बट ये 7 days की डेडलाइन को मिस मत करना, दिस इज मोस्ट क्रूशियल। ये मिस हो गई, आपको पोर्टल ब्लॉक कर देगा फ्रॉम फाइलिंग दैट रिप्लाई, एंड योर देयर विल बी 2 things, योर रजिस्ट्रेशन विल गेट कैंसिल्ड एंड यू विल गेट रिकवरी नोटिस अंडर 17। So that is why these new draconian notices are very dangerous, because they have given abrupt power to the department actually.
ये भी नींद आराम हो जाएगी।
नहीं सर, हमारा तो है ही, हमारा तो काम ही यही है, बट एसएससी के एंगल से भी आप सोचो, बिकॉज एज आई गिव यू दिस एग्जांपल, अभी 3-4 स्मॉल एंटिटीज अलग अलग क्रिएट कर रखी है, मल्टीपल रजिस्ट्रेशन है, एक तो उसी में ऑलरेडी परेशान है कि हम हर जगह रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना पड़ता है फॉर ऑल वर्क्स, ठीक है। अब कोई कंपनी हर कोई अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकती कि टैक्स टीम में 10-10 लोग होंगे, टैक्स टीम में 2 लोग हैं, 3 लोग हैं जो देख रहे हैं, एवरी मंथ वो लोग ऑलरेडी परेशान है 1-3B फाइल करने में, ये और एक नोटिस ऐड हो जाएंगे उनके उसमें, इतना सी basically GST is not a full-time work of an accountant which is there in a small company, right? He has all different work, TDS का already compliance करना है, income tax का करना है, so this is not so easy, which now department is thinking that we are living in a perfect world, है ना, एकदम सबने जो इनवॉइस जिसने जनरेट किया वो अपलोड कर देता है प्रॉपरली, जिसने रिसीव किया वो प्रॉपरली क्रेडिट लेता है, कुछ मिसमैच नहीं होता है, सब कुछ एकदम आइडियल चलता है, कुछ नहीं होता। इतने साल से इनकम टैक्स में टीडीएस आ चुका है, आज भी टीडीएस मिसमैच होता रहता है ना। आज भी हम एंड ऑफ द ईयर फोन करते रहते हैं, अरे आपका टीडीएस रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं हो रहा है, मेरे इसमें ये नहीं हो रहा है। तो इट इज नॉट सो इजी कि दे आर इम्पोजिंग सो सून। एंड यार आप एसएससी से तब तो एक्सपेक्ट करो जब आप खुद परफेक्ट हो। हाँ, खुद का सिस्टम परफेक्ट नहीं है। आफ्टर 6 years tribunal has not been made, but they are expecting, and see we are living in Mumbai, we can see everything, internet is there, everything is proper, फिर भी I would say 70-80%। remote location पे how can you expect everyone to be perfect and everything to be so perfect कि within 7 days आप reply भी कर दोगे, reasons के साथ आपके पास होना चाहिए। it's not so simple अभी।
इंट्रोड्यूस में जीएसटी ऑफिसर को पता नहीं कैसे करना।
possibly
सर अभी टीडीएस अभी उन लोग ने चालू कर दिया है, जिसका पहले इनएक्टिव है उनको 20% चार्जिंग जा। हाँ
sorry क्या?
टीडीएस पैन इज इन ऑपरेशन।
हाँ
तो उनको ने 20% देता हम लोग टीडीएस चार्ज करते हैं।
अच्छा
ये दे आर इशूइंग द नोटिस।
oh so गवर्नमेंट का 1.5 लाख करोड़ 1.6 लाख करोड़ जीएसटी कलेक्शन ऐसे ही हो रहा है ना? ये सब रियल टैक्स नहीं है, ये सब एक्सट्रैक्टेड टैक्स है। So there are few more cases where the turnovers are actually not comparable and department tends to do it. Luckily I have not seen any show cause, but yes there are simple letters or notices कि आपका वन वर्सेस GSTR 7 का टर्नओवर टीडीएस वाला, राइट? किसी ने मेरा टीडीएस डिडक्ट किया, गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज को अगर मैंने कुछ सप्लाई किया, दे डिडक्ट माय टीडीएस एंड दे शो इट इन देयर रिटर्न्स व्हिच गेट्स रिफ्लेक्टेड इन माय रिटर्न आल्सो। सो दे कंपेयर इट विद माय GSTR 1 की अरे आपके GSTR 1 में इतना दिख रहा है लेकिन उसके GSTR 7 से टीडीएस रिटर्न से मैं कंपेयर कर रहा हूं तो मिसमैच है। दिस कुड बी बिकॉज आई एम शोइंग my invoice in GSTR 1 in the month which I raise, and they are showing that GSTR 7 में TDS deducted in the month in which they are paying me. So there will be a mismatch. Simple letters have been received, it has been replied. तो अभी तक तो मैंने कोई show cause नहीं देखा किसी का. Then they are comparing one का data with e-way bills. So again there are various scenarios where e-way bills may not be applicable. आपने कुछ बीच में one में आप ट्रेडर हो, मैन्युफैक्चरर हो, बट कुछ सर्विस दी है, उसका भी कोई बिल है तो वो कंपेयर नहीं होगा क्योंकि ईवे बिल नहीं बना है, या बिलो थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट आपका 50,000 से नीचे है तो आपने ईवे बिल नहीं बनाया है, या एग्जाम सप्लाईज है तो उसके लिए ईवे बिल एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, या वो डिस्टेंस का क्राइटेरिया है उसके अंदर ट्रांसपोर्ट किया है तो आपका ईवे बिल नहीं है। तो देयर कुड बी वेरियस सिनेरियो। सो दिस इज नॉट कंपेरेबल। ईवे बिल का डेटा विद योर GSTR 1 इज नॉट सिंपली कंपेरेबल, बट यस डिपार्टमेंट कैन आस्क यू टू फर्निश द रिकंसिलिएशन और डिफरेंस। Similarly, GSTR 1 or e-invoice का data, right? Again, e-invoice is applicable only on B2B invoices, export invoices, but not on B2C invoices. So, जिसका e-invoice है और B2B business है, उसका वैसे तो 99% tally होना चाहिए, but there could be certain scenarios where there will be a mismatch.
डेटा कैप्चरिंग में कभी-कभी इशू आता है।
Data capturing में भी issue आता है, you are right.
पोर्टल से रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं होता दूसरे जगह में।
I agree. Those are also the
फिर
scenarios.
वो मैन्युअली अपलोड करो तो उसके लिए 10,000 का पेनल्टी मारेगा। GSTR 1 फाइल करते से। IRN सबका संभाल के रखना है।
हाँ।
And there can be issues subsequently, I don't know. In the 2B, I think we can see the date of the e-invoice also. So if the invoice is our invoice, we have received the invoice in the month of October. And it is
the
appearing in 2B also.
And the invoice is of later date.
It is of November. So whether we'll get a notice to 1
अभी
month.
तक तो देखा नहीं है, don't give this idea to department. Luckily,
7 days का लिमिट तो खाली 100 करोड़
7 days का नहीं बोल रहा।
नहीं, she is saying कि उसका e-invoice की डेट नवंबर है और मैंने जो आगे सेल का मेरा इनवॉइस बना दिया वो अक्टूबर का है।
इनवॉइस अपलोडिंग डेट नवंबर।
नहीं, I'm not saying that. It is our inward supply. We received the invoice in the month of October, dated October. It is appearing in 2A 2B also properly for the October month.
But the e-invoice is
IRN का auto completed date होता है, that is the 1st November, 2nd November. So in that case, department may come up with कि you have taken the credit 1 month before because the e-invoice date is November. So then you may have to pay
E-invoice के लिए
interest.
डेट के लिए फाइलिंग का लिमिट नहीं है ना, खाली 7
नहीं
days का
नहीं, तो
Right.
I'll tell you. So wherever e-invoice is applicable to an SSE, and if that e-invoice is not made, then the invoice is not a valid invoice. So what she's saying is correct. Department will say that कि ये valid invoice ही नहीं था अक्टूबर में, जब तक उसका e-invoice नहीं बना था. ये valid invoice हुआ 1 नवंबर को, 2 नवंबर को, जब उसका e-invoice बना, और आपने इसका क्रेडिट ले लिया है अक्टूबर में on the basis of an invalid invoice. Because law में clearly they have mentioned that where e-invoice is applicable, and if the supplier has not raised the invoice, it is not.
backdated e-invoice करने क्यों देते हैं? सिंपल बात है, backdated e-invoice करने मत दो.
नहीं, backdated कहाँ होगा ये?
नहीं,
backdated आप फ्यूचर में पीछे का डेट डाल के अपलोड नहीं करो. आप आज भी 1 अक्टूबर का डेट डाल के इनवॉइस आज अपलोड कर सकते हो.
नहीं नहीं, आपका e-invoice का डेट तो आज का ही आएगा. आपका आप इनवॉइस की डेट 1 अक्टूबर होगी, लेकिन आपकी e-invoice की डेट आज की होगी. हाँ, नहीं, मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ, अभी तक ऐसा इशू आया नहीं.
Issue आया नहीं है, but there are very high chances. Because I have not seen inward part, but for outward supplies, when we are filing a GSTR 1 for our clients, when we are comparing their books and their e-invoice report, because e-invoice is auto-populated over there. So when I raise questions to them, why you have raised the invoices late, 1 or 2 days, they have given me the e-invoice also, where they have done it as on 30th or 20th or something like that. But auto-populated date in the e-invoice report is of November, next month.
Oh.
So then it is a portal issue also. So we have to keep that e-invoices also.
Correct.
Because that some scan code is coming.
Yes.
If you scan that code, it gives you the correct date. But the auto-populated date is subsequent, which is incorrect.
You are right. There is a possibility. Department can raise that issue. और अभी तक वो वाला भी इशू आया नहीं है, जिसमें किसी की e-invoice की जब लिमिट क्रॉस हो गई थी और उसने e-invoice स्टार्ट करने में 15 दिन, महीना भर लगा दिया, और उसके बीच में जो इनवॉइसेस रेज किए हैं, there is a possibility in future department will say ये जो बीच के इनवॉइसेस थे उसका क्रेडिट will be denied because these are all invalid invoices. क्योंकि वो टर्नओवर की लिमिट तो रिड्यूस करते गए, तो that is possible. Well, I have covered all my scenarios. So if you have any other questions, we can discuss or we can wind it up. Right? Thank you for taking my question.
ट्रेन जल्दी आती है तो फिर ऐसे होती है. Okay. So I hope you all enjoyed the session today. So, there's a person called Eugene Cho. He was the president of Bread for the World and Bread Institute. ऐसा है, Bread Institute भी. So he has said that everybody loves reconciliation, but until it involves the truth telling, confessing, dismantling, and peacemaking. बराबर ना? So as an GST auditor, we have to complete this task. And I recognize the presence of our RCM and Vikasa chairperson, past convener, Pinky Kedia. So a big thanks to Speaker CA Archit Agarwal for covering the various practical aspects.
Thank you.
And thanks to our coordinators, past convener CS Jayesh Thakkar and Ankush Gupta, and also to the members who have attended in large numbers, and to the management of IPLEX for providing us with the new. So on behalf of JB Nagar's TP Study Circle, I request you to please again carry a. Thank you very much.
Now I want to appeal for registration of NETCON. National Conference for Students. As this year, I am the Vikasa chairperson. We are conducting a national conference of students on 15 and 16 December at NESCO ground. At the same time, same venue.